I understand my two most distinguished panelists basically need no introduction. So I think the most anticipated and inevitable question for the two of you leading retail companies now, really in light of the trade war. Then Greg, first to you, what do you see as the general implication for the ongoing China-US relationship, although with the positive outlook pointed by our president to you as your view regarding China, not just as a sourcing destination, but also a market, a potential source for innovation on technology and business model?
Well, there's a lot there. So maybe just take a step back. First of all, thank you for having me here today. I appreciate the invitation. These events are always can be really powerful and stimulating for these types of conversations. First of all, I think the most interesting thing about our panel is that my company is called Walmart and Daniel's company is called Woomart.
Is that just a coincidence? I really have a hard time pronouncing those.
So Daniel, talk about how it came to be called Woomart.
Yeah, this is a really good question. I have been asked for many times. Yeah. Walmart. If for English speakers, those two names are very similar, but for Chinese speakers, they are very different. In Chinese we call it Wumei, and Walmart in Chinese called Walmart.
It's close enough.
You can see the difference here. But let me say, how the name comes from. We started a company called Wumei. In Chinese, it's Wumei, then means 价廉, means Wumei, and the price is good as well. But for English speakers, it's easy to pronounce Wumei to women. So I think about, well, maybe it's just call it Wu-Mart, it's better. Definitely, in my mind, Walmart is a great name. But I do not think it's intellectual property, stolen.
Did you call them to double confirm
however,
that?
Yeah,
the trademark.
I want to say one thing. Sam Walton is the ancestor for all modern retail business. We respect them very much. And I visit his museum in person twice, yeah. So this is the influence I got from Walmart, from Sam Walton, and also from US before I start the retail business in China.
Yeah, thank you. It's
great inspiration. Right?
Yes, and we'll talk more about a lot of the changes going on in retail right now, but really the last significant set of changes to the retail formats around the world were in the early 60s, led by people like Sam with the rise of the discount store model that really changed the retail landscape. I wear a couple different hats. I run an investment firm. My old partner, Bob King, is here today. We were early investors in Baidu, and I served on the board there for over a decade, so had a lot of experience seeing the market through that. And then now, obviously, China's at the top of a lot of our conversations at Walmart. I thought maybe I'd just quickly, I agree with Mike, data is important, so just start with some data about our business to set the context for the conversation. So we opened our first Walmart store in Arkansas in 1962. Our first international store, Mexico City, in 1991, and then we opened our first Walmart in China in 1996. And we currently have over 11,000 stores in 27 countries. We employ almost 2.5 million people around the world. And our China business now is over 400 stores, and we have about 100,000 associates there. So it's a meaningful scale business for us. And given that the country has almost 1.5 billion people and one of the highest growth markets that exist today, it's a critical market for us as a retail business, but also obviously in relation to trade and sourcing, where it's been one of our main markets that we've imported from for over 40 years. So anyway, that's the background. Daniel, you want to give any background on your business before we dive into get back to the trade question?
Yeah, so thank you for reminding me. In fact, after I studied here for some time, I came back to China, influenced by Silicon Valley culture. I did start my small company. It's a computer firm. Yeah. We do all kinds of computer services in China. One day I think we should develop some products to last the company in the future. So we developed point of sale. At that time, it's advanced technology and also management information system for retail business. However, back to early 1990s, nobody really appreciated software. So finally, I decided to open a showcase store, let people know how computer technology can help retailers to do business better. Luckily, our first store was very successful. Not very big store. The annual sales in 1995 is over 100 million RMB and show some profit for a single store. I thought it's a great business. After that, we add more and more stores by leverage of a very good positive cash flow. So now we have a little bit more than 1,000 stores, but our store has different formats. We have many small stores, less than 500 square meters. So this is my basic background for my retail business.
Daniel certainly is a firm believer into technology changing the foundation for retail going forward. But before we deep dive into the innovations in technology, I want to come back to this trade wall.
Yeah.
So what percentage of your good is really sourced from China? Then that portion will be changing going forward?
Right.
Where do you see other possible country to replace China's position in your supply chain, Greg?
So I won't talk today about specific percentages of what we source from China and other places, but let's talk about trade. So first of all, our belief at Walmart is that trade is really good for American and Chinese consumers. If you look at the statistics over the last 50 years, in China, over 700 million people have been lifted out of poverty since they opened their borders to trade. For the U.S. exporting to China, it's been a growing market for the last decade until recently, and something like 1.1 million American jobs are tied to that. And then obviously with Chinese exports coming into the U.S., there are studies that say it's actually raised the purchasing power of American consumers by $18,000 on an annual basis, and there's almost 40 million American jobs tied to trade. So we're big believers in trade. Now we also recognize that there's a global concern that's been growing around the other impacts of trade, and there is dislocation caused by it, and we're doing things within our company to address that, which we can talk about later in the conversation. But as a starting point, we think overall that open borders and trade is positive. We don't believe that tariffs are the answer to resolve trade disputes. And tariffs, from our perspective, are attacks on our customers and our suppliers, and they inhibit growth. They don't lead to growth. And so just in the last year, for the first year, American exports to China are down. And with the escalating tariffs that are going into place, so far they've been fairly moderate, and most retailers have been able to absorb the impact of the price increases. But the next round of tariffs that are coming are substantial. And just to use one example, we have sourced a low-price bicycle from China for a number of years that we were able to source at $72 cost, which is pretty amazing for a bicycle. Sure. And with the first round of tariffs, that went up to $79, which we could manage to absorb that cost increase. But with the next level of tariffs, it would go to $90. And at that point, you reach a level where the retailers won't be able to absorb that, and the tariffs will be passed on to U.S. consumers. And so our hope and our expectation is that there will be some resolution to the current dispute, but if not, then it's going to lead to it'll lead to reduced demand and consumption in the U.S.
Certainly, it's also affecting the Chinese consumer on the other way around. And this morning, I took a huge bowl of seasonal berries. You have to know, berry is very expensive in China. So cherry and berry freedom is symbolic for the middle class lifestyle. You know, Daniel. So, what's your impression about the reduced already importing goods from states, especially agricultural products?
Yeah, cherry freedom is a very good example for China's consumption upgrading. You know, maybe 5 years ago, nobody really can consume cherry in China, especially for imported cherry. But now, people are really used to that, and
we can live without cherry.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. And so last year, especially for Spring Festival, we see, you know, the cherries price up, and more importing cherries from South American and
what are the most popular categories of imported goods for you at Walmart in China?
I think cherry is one of them, and also urine from Vietnam, Thailand, many other high-end fruits from Southeast Asia. I would like to say roughly a quarter of high-end fruit are imported, but not many from United States. It's a pity, yeah. And even, you know, for other products like wine, I think California could be a very good source to supply China. You know, now China import a lot of wine from Europe, initially from France, later on from Chile, you know, other countries as well. We sell a lot of American products, from P&G products and Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and many of them. But majority of them now are made in China. However, for Chinese consumers, sometimes they want real American products. They want some, even P&G products made in America. Frankly speaking, one day I asked a very senior executive from P&G, I said, well, how do you compare the P&G products made in China and made in America?
Can you tell the difference?
Yeah, he said, well, frankly speaking, the product made in China is better because all the machines are new. The procedures are same. Yeah.
But maybe there's a spirit inside from American.
Yeah.
Talking about American brand will be really very popularly embraced. Recently, there is a phenomenon happening in Shanghai. Costco is coming to Shanghai, and after 3 hours of opening, the consumers rushed to the store, crushed everything. They had to really close down, and the multis and others were sold out in 3 seconds. That store is only 15 kilos away from one of your Sam's Club. So how do you explain the phenomenon? It's nothing completely new. Why, in the middle of such a sentiment of a trade war, American brand coming to China, embraced by Chinese consumers, and also received very positive equity market feedback here? Yeah. $7+ billion market cap was created on the same day. Yeah. Based on the positive outlook or confidence.
Right. Well, first of all, the Chinese consumers and how and where they're choosing to shop, I don't think they care about a trade dispute going on. I mean, they're thinking about.
They're very insensitive.
You know, they're looking at where can I have an exciting, clean place, lots of product, good prices. We've had similar openings in the past with our Sam's Club format. The Chinese love the membership.
In the 1990s already, you were the first one in Shenzhen. Huh?
Yes, that's right. So we have 26 clubs now. The Chinese love the wholesale membership format. because it tends to be pretty high-priced goods that are with strong brands that they trust, but they feel like they're getting a deal because they're part of a membership program.
Huge discount.
So I think maybe half of our top 10 grossing stores in our entire chain are actually our Sam's Club format in China. So it's, we were encouraged to see it because it just means we're on the right track. We've committed to build. We've got 26 clubs now, and we're committed to build up to 40 of them within the next 2 years. So we were encouraged to see the reaction.
Exactly. That leads to my next questions would be, what do you observe as the most relevant and interesting retail trend happening in China that's going to really affect your business? You mentioned membership as one mantra to all the retailers and thinking, we can make this work. And also, to maximize the price optimization wouldn't be the only solution. I think last year I read your shareholders report, and you mentioned one of the most important category for you is fresh grocery. And you're encouraging the pickups and delivery from the site to home, or you're encouraging the traffic driving to the store. What will you see as the future trend going forward to really reach your consumers?
So I mentioned at the beginning that we're going through what we call seismic shift in retail, and that's really been driven by e-commerce and digitalization. Which has had impacted all lots of parts of our business. But essentially, what e-commerce has done is change the dynamic between the retailer and the consumer, where the consumer now has almost perfect price transparency, endless assortment, and they can get the goods whenever they want them. They don't have to. It's not subject to when the store is open or when they can get by the store. They can shop anytime. And so for us, this is an exciting time to be in retail. We were a little slow to adapt to some of the initial changes that came from the advent of e-commerce, but we're big believers in our competition makes us better, and we've had really good competitors here in the U.S. and good competitors in China. So for us, the main initiative that we've been focused on is with grocery. It's the last part of e-commerce that really hasn't been addressed because it's the hardest. Grocery and consumables tend to be low-margin products that are sold in small packs and eaches, and it's hard to distribute those to people's homes in an economic way. That being said, consumers need those on an everyday basis. So if you can create that tie with the consumer, it's a really powerful business. And the main initiative that we've been focused on there is we put pickup points in 2,000 of our stores so far. So essentially, you can order your grocery and consumables on an app, drive into the store parking lot, which is geo-fenced. It knows you're there, and someone will come out and put it in your car. And obviously, we want people to continue to come into our stores, and lots of them still like to do that. But if you're in a hurry and it's too much time or hassle, then we're happy to deliver it this way and serve customers that way. So anyway, we're doing that around the world, and then we've got a number of things going on in China. But I'll pause there, and maybe Daniel, you want to talk about some of the things you're seeing in China.
Exactly, because to provide integrated online, offline combined services that sees through consumers' eyes is global trend. However, every country is different, especially in China. We don't have a concept called suburb. We don't drive to the huge network as you build, really far away from the city. Given the population density in cities, given the trend of continuous urbanization, do Chinese people, Daniel, still need the traditional sense of supermarket? Or will be e-commerce plus convenience store into community will be a better solution? You already have in Shanghai companies like Ding Dong can deliver fresh grocery within 30 minutes. Then how do you compete or embrace this brand?
Yeah, I think today, even in the future, people need go to store and want to order at home, get home delivery. So both will exist, especially for fresh things. And supermarket will be there, even after many years, but will appear in other upgrading formats. So this is the challenge and also the great opportunities. Let's recall the development of the modern retail industry. Walmart, Tesco, Carrefour lead a revolution. This really changed the landscape of retail business. And Walmart annual sales over $500 billion. So it's a huge success with the information technology help. But 20 more years ago, we see Amazon, Alibaba, and other e-commerce operators began to do something very differently. They mainly from online try to reach the customers. They are extremely successful as well. However, we can say the tendency, the growth rate for online operators getting lower and lower, especially in China. For growth, annual growth rate 50%, 60%, now to around 20%. 2016, Double 11, Jack Ma announced e-commerce died, retail died. Only new retail born, began the new age. So this is what he announced. Basically, I agree with his announcement. In fact, before that, since the second half of 2014, I and some young people began the experiment called DMOR. DMOR's mission is to try to make all the retailers be more efficient and also improve customers' experience. And basically, it's become the enabler of retailers. And so far, the experiment is successful. And the DMOR's concept is try to become alliance for retailers. The alliance can have many aspects like customers, like merchandise, like supply chain, standards, especially for technology. Right now, over 70 Chinese retailers partners with DMOR, and DMOR has 75 million members, as Annabelle introduced. And monthly active user, MAU, is over 14 million. So make DMOR the 10 largest e-commerce apps in China. This is not easy. In China, for the
so
top
many
10,
competitions, right?
Yeah, for the top 10 e-commerce apps, Alibaba has 3. Only Alibaba has 3. So but DMOR only exists 4 years and still keep growing month by month. So that means if you find a solution to help traditional retailers to utilize their existing stores and existing supply chains have inclusive growth, probably it's a way to really utilize the resources and also really serve customers better.
Yeah.
So one thing that was interesting, maybe 18, 24 months ago, China's really been at the forefront in leading these changes, and ourselves and one of our main competitors here in US e-commerce, we were all fighting to get from 2-day shipping to 1-day shipping.
Amazon, you're talking.
Yeah, and so then and we had our folks over in the Chinese market, and someone sent some pictures, and they were at, I don't remember which one, it was a JD or someone, they were actually doing orders in an hour. And we finally realized, we were sort of working on something over here, and in China they were working on a completely different problem to solve. And so for us as a global retailer, it's been, we've just learned a ton from being in that market. Another one example is they've been at the forefront of scan and go. So with the We app or the WeChat app, you can go into one of our stores. You can scan items and do self-checkout, and we've now taken that from the Chinese market to the U.S. So we've again, we're competing, aggressively in the market to build our business there, but we're also learning a lot that we're bringing back to other markets.
Yes,
let me add
to drive efficiency.
several points to Greg. In China right now, we are working on 30 minutes delivery after you place the order. So this is very fast. So you have to use existing stores to pick up items, then deliver to customer right away. Otherwise, for a pure e-commerce operator, you need to build up a warehouse, closer to your customers. So this is very different. And for the scan and go, now we think it's a very important entry for retailers to unify the online, offline transaction together. So for example, for Walmart, Walmart use Dmall 100%, use the total Dmall's new operating system. Now, 75% of all transactions, including offline and online, go through Dmall app. So, that app is really powerful. Customer feel much better. Now customer want to be distinguished as an online customer or offline customers. They have unified experience. So, and also the efficiency for retailers have been improved tremendously. So now probably consider the retail business should try to put everything together. It's a real omni China.
True. Yeah. Then on behalf of the audience, I'm asking this question to the two of you. In the era of big data and AI and IoT defined, what do we redefine the sense of e-commerce? It's no longer just the .com business. As you mentioned, technology, digitization can go so deep into customer acquisition and also merchandise strategy, also supply chain management to improve efficiency. You just provided one of the beautiful examples for speeding up the payment process, but there is so much can be done. So if you can share with us the vision from Walmart 5 years down the road, what are the major points you're addressing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we like most industries see a significant impact coming from AI and big data. For us, a lot of it that we're focused on is the supply chain, but also things we're doing in the stores. So we've got, in some of our stores now, we have robots that go down the aisle and they scan the items to check in stocks and then automatically reorder. And we've actually found, by the way, that customers love it. They find it's kind of like entertainment. They come into the store and their kids see the robot and they'll follow it around. And so it's good for business and creates an interesting environment in the store. But for us, we believe that our business will continue to be a people-led and people-driven business, and so we're most focused on ways we can use technology and AI to enable them to do their jobs better. And so those are most of the types of things we're working on currently. But there will be jobs that are displaced due to just due to technology changes, and our view is that our company as well as government need to address that, and we're doing that through academies that we've set up where we actually have 200 of them around the U.S. and we've retrained over 100,000 of our associates in new jobs that they can do as our business develops. So we're paying close attention to it. We're leveraging it where we can, and then we're trying to address the dislocation that comes from it.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's a challenging question. I think in 5 years, a customer will feel even more convenient, more comfortable, and safe to purchase all kinds of products, including fresh products. They can stay home, easily to get what they want. They can go to stores to test, to buy something, to take home. And also all their shopping experience will be unified on their handset and whatever in app or in other storage device. And for retailers, I believe nobody will distinguish retailers, online retailers, or brick-and-mortar retailers. All things will become together, and the efficiency will become very, very important. The compete among new retailers will be based on the new technology. When I talk the new technology, I always try to use the word called the digitalization. The digitalization is a word try to include the internet, artificial intelligence, and also the way to let the traditional business to really embrace internet and artificial intelligence. Maybe this definition is not that accurate, but try to give us a big picture for the future. And in 5 years, we will see the store still there, and but will be upgraded to meet customers' need and let them feel more comfortable. And also, the store will become the place people come to shop. And in addition to people to shop there, the store will become the warehouse to supply the people's instant home delivery requirement, especially in China. This will be there. And we will use artificial intelligence to really achieve automatic replenishment, make it very accurate, and the
procurement, fulfillment.
Yes, that's right. And even we will try to automate the transaction between retailers and suppliers
as well.
Yeah.
Just to add on to that, we also we don't believe that stores are going away. We think they're going to be physical stores for a long time, and it might be hard for folks in this room to appreciate, but in a lot of places, their whole social experience during a day might be going into their local Walmart, and that's a central gathering point in their community, and they wouldn't want to order all their goods over the internet. They want to go into the store. So we think there's always going to be a place for physical stores. They're going to evolve over time. They'll likely get a bit smaller, and you're not going to have a music and a book department, but you're always going to have
Spotify.
You're going to have consumables there and electronics that people want to touch and feel and test, and apparel and things that you want to try on. So the stores will look different, but our view is we're going to have physical stores for a long time.
That human interaction, the spontaneous shopping experience will still be very important to the consumers. We believe that's from our standpoint of view. But we also see the importance of the online players. They started from their position, owning the data, owning the volume of the customer. They are also penetrating into offline experience. In the recent case of Amazon acquiring Whole Foods, really to add interesting category, customer segments into its portfolio, but also emphasizing their understanding regarding the offline stores. Then here comes the question, how do you see the competition and how do you react to that?
I mentioned it earlier. We think great competition makes us better, and that's been our view from when the company was founded, and it causes us to typically get our cost in a better position and be able to offer better prices. So sometimes it's uncomfortable, but we appreciate the competition. It was interesting when Amazon announced the acquisition of Whole Foods. Our stock and a lot of other more traditional retailers' stocks all went down that day. And I called our CEO. He and I talk almost every day, and he said, "I know what you're calling about. Our stock's down." I said, "No, I'm not calling about that. I'm saying that was a huge vote of confidence in our strategy, because we already have 4,000 stores, and we've got the products out where the customers need them, and essentially, and that we can find different ways to pick from our stores and either deliver or have consumers pick it up, and so for us it was affirmation of the path we were going down, which was Amazon knows they need a physical presence to serve where the customers are going, and they got that to a certain extent through Whole Foods. although that's only 464 stores. So.
It's a very powerful network. Your stock also reacted very positively when you wrote that $16 billion check to take control over Flipkart in India. Your international strategy will be through acquisitions as well?
Our history has been both. So we've had certain markets that we've gone into and made acquisitions. Other we've built stores from ground up. And India's been a really tough market. We've been trying to get into that market for over 20 years, and their politics are really difficult. And so they've had a consistent series of policies that have basically kept foreign retailers from building stores. And it's really to protect the informal markets there, which is the bulk of their retail business. Flipkart was, to us, a really attractive opportunity. It's the last big e-commerce market that hadn't been cracked with any foreign ownership, and so we made a big bet on the company. But so far, so good, and they've got some other really interesting components to their business. They've got a really fast-growing digital payments business that's a key part of their business. So we're encouraged so far, but it was a big bet for us.
Mm-hmm. I really hope you still remain confident on the Chinese market as well. Not the best timing to ask any bold move for acquisition for you in future in China. Get us posted. We go invest first and sell it to you.
Great.
Okay, so Daniel, maybe one of the last questions to you is how engaged are you in the U.S. Regarding partnership, cooperation, and potential acquisitions in technology or?
Well, maybe not much, because U.S. has so strong Walmart here.
Oh.
Nothing left for us.
We can only afford to be
acquire.
Walmart
Yeah.
in China.
Yeah, but I think Amazon, purchased the Whole Foods, mean a lot. That means physical stores are still important. Mm-hmm. I noticed the share price initially went down for Walmart, for Target, and later on, come back, even higher. In addition to that, we noticed it's not easy to reform or upgrade a physical store in a very short period. Mm-hmm. Although this purchase happened 2 years already, but we do not see big achievement yet. So, from this incident, we can have some really important lessons. Number one, physical store is important. Number two, physical store upgrading need a little bit longer time. And the last one I want to say today is we need a comprehensive solution for physical store and e-commerce integration. The best way is from the bottom, build a new system. The system should be based on all new technologies, internet, cloud, big data, artificial intelligence, everything. And the system should consider brick-and-mortar things and e-commerce things together. This is the comprehensive solution
approach to that. Is there any cooperation between Walmart and Walmart going?
We talk. We've also interesting part of our history is we've always been pretty open to talking with competitors and view it. We just view it as part of our culture that we're open to sharing things, and so Daniel and I have met before. He spent time with our executives when they're over in China. But we think dialogue is a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah. So 3 months ago, I was invited by Greg to take part in the big annual conference. Walmart. It's a really
major celebration.
Very interesting event. I learned a lot from that conference. Yeah.
That's maybe a funny side story, but when our founder, Sam Walton, had our first shareholder meeting as a public company, most shareholder meetings, nobody shows up. And so he had a shareholder meeting and nobody showed up. And so he said to the lawyers, do I have to have a meeting because there's nobody here? And they said, well, yeah, by the your corporate bylaws, you actually have to have a shareholders meeting. He said, well, if we're going to have one, let's make it fun. So the next year then, he invited one person from every store to come to the shareholder meeting. And now that's continued for the last 50 years, actually. This will be our 50th shareholder meeting coming up. So we have about 15,000 people that come to our shareholder meeting, and we have Taylor Swift and Katy Perry, folks like that entertain, and we also mix in some business, but it's a lot of fun. Can I say one more thing on trade before, because I think you're going to open up for questions, right?
Sure.
So we didn't. Maybe one question, Dan, you both might have views on this, but what can we do to further the situation in relation to trade? And from my perspective, I'd just say three things that we think are important. One is that we continue to talk both with politicians here in the US as well as China, and what we do is we share data. So we talk about what are the negative impacts of some of the current actions on both sides, and then what are the positives that we could get if things were resolved. So, we've got probably more data than anybody in the world, and we're happy to share it with our politicians to try and have an impact. The second thing is we really try and take a long-term view. So, I think we've seen some knee-jerk reactions around, okay, there's currently tariffs, we're going to move all of our sourcing out of China. Our view is China is going to be an important market for us to import from for years to come. And so while we're always looking at different ways to diversify our supply chain or our sourcing, we're taking a long-term view, and we're going to be sourcing from China for a long time. And then the last thing I'd say is, and Condi touched on it last night, but the words that we choose to use. So I try not to use the word trade war, because I think anytime folks like us in this room use those types of words, I think it conveys a message that we're at war. And I think using words, the words that we choose to use are really important. So anyway, that's.
So how should we frame it? Trade.
Conflict, dispute,
Okay. I like
challenges. At our company, we like to refer to things that are hard as opportunities.
Let's talk about trade opportunities now.
That's right.
Yeah, we're about to open to the questions. And before that, I want to really say thank you, Greg. And you had this 50 years tradition of celebrating with your employees. And we just saw last week actually, Alibaba celebrated its 20th anniversary. Still a very young company, a remote competitor from you. But most companies in China on the spotlight are still teenagers. We have so much to learn. It's such a long journey. We will be up and downs, not just the trade opportunity, but also other competitions from technology and from innovations, from organizations' own strengths. So it's going to be a long way, and we have so much to look up to you.
Thank you.
All right, with this, we open to the floor for questions regarding maybe trade conflict or opportunity. Okay.
Okay.
Would you mind standing up and?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Charles Hsu with Crosswave Management. We work with Western companies to help them get their feet into the China market, and going back and forth to China, roughly once a month for the past 20 years. I feel like I get a series of snapshots of sort of what day-to-day life is on the ground, and so while we've seen, and Greg, you referred to some of the things you're learning from studying some of the business practices in China, that would suggest that there are learnings that can go back and forth. Certainly in China, you see tons of Western products flooding into the markets, and so superficially, it looks like there's sort of a merging, but when you look at the way Chinese consumers use things like Alipay, Dianping, Meituan, and so on, it feels like the ecosystems are actually diverging. They're so fundamentally different in the way consumers there relate to technology, relate to their devices, and through them to the overall market. So do you see this divergence eventually sort of returning to a convergence, or do you see these developing into two really fundamentally different ecosystems with different dynamics and sort of long-term structural differences?
So we see more convergence than divergence. Now that can play out over a fairly long period of time, but having been in a number of international markets over the years, what we've seen is, again, customers come back to wanting the same things, and usually, especially with the way information works now and the learnings back and forth across borders, if there's something that's working in Rio or Mumbai, they're quickly going to pick up on that in Beijing and they're going to roll it out. And so we think because consumers at the end of the day pretty much want the same things. Now it's a little bit different, in terms of the products and all that by market, but essentially the formats we think will converge over time and the experiences will converge. Because if somebody's done something that's powerful, somebody else is going to see it quickly and copy it.
All right. The gentleman at the same table.
So, question for you, Greg. The trade, whatever euphemism, conflict.
Opportunity.
We just confirmed it.
To what extent is that causing you to want to move your supply chain out of China?
That we are wanting to move?
To what extent is that making you want to, or actually start moving your supply chain out of China?
So it's not. We don't actually look at it that way. And I mean, China's a really important market, but we source around the world, and so while it's critical in a couple of key categories like toys and consumer electronics, which for those categories it's pretty much the only market in the world that you can source at scale. But other categories like apparel, home, other categories, those have really diversified out of China over the last 20 years as their wage rates have risen, and they're no longer able to compete aggressively in those categories. So we're always, our buyers and sourcing folks are always out looking for the best possible deals, and if they see something that they see a change coming, they'll look at other markets, but we're not doing any top-down. There's no top-down direction to move sourcing out of China because of the current issues. And again, that comes back to our long-term view that they're going to be the critical market to bring in imports with a few of these categories that where there's more high value add in the manufacturing of the product. So that if this went on for 10 years, that would likely change, but we think things will get resolved in some period of time in the short to medium term.
Hopefully. The lady over there in white. Guess we can take two more.
How much capacity or influence do you feel like you have to actually be able to work with the government in terms of helping to influence and provide input, as it relates to trade policy, on both the U.S. side as well as the China side? And do you see that influence kind of shifting, over time? And where do you think that might go in terms of your being able to affect some of these decisions? We
believe we can have an impact. I wouldn't say we can drive policy, but senior administration officials in both the U.S. and China reach out to us for input on what we're seeing especially in this market, and so when we'll share specific examples of what's going to happen with a bicycle or when there was the potential tariffs with Mexico, that would have driven the cost of bananas up by almost 50%, American consumers don't want to all of a sudden have to pay 50% more for their bananas. So we think we can have an impact by sharing specific data, and both governments have been open to that dialogue. So, which is part of the reason why we're, you hear a lot through the media, but we're still encouraged that this will get resolved in some form.
Okay, we can take two more. The gentleman here and the lady in the back.
With the rise of e-commerce in China, I'd be interested to get your thoughts on infrastructure, and specifically is the infrastructure on the ground and air, is it keeping up with the rapid growth in e-commerce?
The question is the e-commerce and infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
In fact, in the past 30 years, basically China's infrastructure has been upgraded a lot. Especially in the past 10 years, 5 years, in order to cope with e-commerce development, I think led by Alibaba and other internet companies, the infrastructure has been re-improved, and also the improvement is huge, and you can see the advantage. For example, before the e-commerce revolution, you really cannot imagine consumer can get what they ordered in 30 minutes, in half day, in 1 day. But now they really achieve that. And also for big amount of orders, they can just deal with it like this, in 1 day or 2 days. For double 11, for double 12, they can solve the problem. And in addition to that, the good infrastructure even change the promotion campaigns for retailers and for other business operators. Now the offline, online together campaign happened very frequently, almost every month.
But it also has to do a lot of public spending went to highways and railways, really building the infrastructure. Okay, last question.
Greg, my question is actually for you to perhaps share your understanding about the fundamental changes about America that have shaped the public narratives on trade. I just got back from a 2-month trip in China, and the narrative in China about what's happening in America is clear. I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but the Chinese are thinking, well, the reason that the United States is bringing on this trade dispute is because they want to contain China. Right? There's actually a large agreement on that narrative. So maybe you can help perhaps folks from China here to understand and appreciate what is happening in America that has led us to where we are today. I just got back from Washington last week, and I have to say the tone in Washington is much less friendly than I think what's happening here. So thank you.
Yeah. This is that's a much longer conversation, but at a high level, I think it's not just America. I think it's other Western industrial countries where whole swaths of the population are feeling like they're left behind, and they're feeling like they don't have opportunities to get a great education, to get a good job, to advance their families forward. And so I think a reaction from some of our politicians is to prey on those feelings and put forward things like tariffs as solutions, when from our perspective they're not. There's more fundamental issues. The challenges, the fundamental issues need to get addressed. And currently, I don't have a ton of optimism that our politicians are up for it, but hopefully that'll change. And I think it's America, and we've got a lot going for us, and I think we'll figure it out.
Sounds promising. And I guess with this, we're concluding our session for international opportunity, so trade opportunity. Okay, thank you for listening.